Hello and welcome to Bourne Community College. I'm Simon Fielding here at the end of National Apprenticeship Week in association with Chichester College, where employers all over West Sussex have been celebrating the vital work that apprentices do. We're here today to answer your questions and to find out a little bit more about what an apprenticeship involves. So without further ado, let's introduce our panel of experts here with us today. First of all, we've got Chailey Jennings to my left-hand side, who's actually a serving apprentice. So she'll be able to give kind of a student's view on what apprenticeships involve. Next to her is Donna Harfield, who's the Apprenticeship Sales Manager at Chichester College. And joining us on the end, delighted to welcome Mr. Andrew Ball from Rolls-Royce. And that is one of the firms that really sees the value of what apprentices do at their base in Goodwood. So hello, welcome to the panel. Chailey, let's start by asking you, first of all, what your job as an apprentice involves and whereabouts you're based.
At the minute, I'm currently based at Chichester College within the Business and Management Apprenticeship team. So my role involves a lot of admin, and I've been taking over quite a lot of different programmes and things like that. I'm looking at vocational relevant qualifications and things. So you get given quite a lot of responsibility. It's brilliant.
And was it a difficult choice to choose an apprentice? Because there's lots of options for further education, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. And obviously one of the big choices is, do you want to go to university or not? And I went to sixth form first before I chose to come into an apprenticeship. And going through sixth form, you do get told a lot about different universities and how to get into universities and things like that. And it was only through a mutual friend who was doing an apprenticeship that I even looked into them. And I'm so glad I did. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Donna, come to you if we can. Just explain about what an apprenticeship involves, because it's one of those words that can have so many meanings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I work at Chichester College in the apprenticeships team. And what we do is we try to match our students or our potential students to our great employer body. Now, one of the main things about an apprenticeship is that you have to have a job. You will be paid in that job as well. So it's kind of that bridge between being at school to going to college. And also it can be used for people who are well into their careers to develop them as for continuous development. So there actually isn't an age limit on apprenticeships at all. But for sort of the more conventional kind of route into the world of work, you do have to match to a job, and that's what the team at Chichester College, we're there to support you to find a relevant job that's what you want to do and what you want to study as well. So the two do go together. And
it's not a case, is it, that once you've matched them up with the job, they're thrown into the big wide world, you are there to support them throughout, aren't you?
Absolutely, yes. So you won't be left alone. So when you start your apprenticeship, you'll most likely be doing 4 days in the workplace, and you'll have the support of your employer, and you'll have a line manager and all of your team at work there to help you. But you'll also be going to college normally 1 day a week. There are other models of delivery. There's what we call block release, where you come in and do a whole week at college, and then you do sort of about 5 or 6 weeks in the workplace entirely. So you do it in chunks rather than sort of once a week. And there is also completely work-based learning, whereby one of our assessment team comes to you. So if you're quite keen to go out into the world of work and you feel ready to take that step, sometimes that's a better model. So Chailey is on one of those sort of models. But, Chailey and I are also, we're colleagues as well as, Chailey being an apprentice herself.
And you mentioned there's no upper age limit to being an apprentice. I understand you're starting one yourself as well, aren't you, later this year?
Yes. As I mentioned, there isn't actually an age limit for apprenticeships. It's a bit of a myth that they're just for school leavers or for A-level leavers. So you can be 16 or 60. So they're used particularly by big companies, because big companies now have what's called an apprenticeship levy. So Andrew will be able to vouch for that at Rolls-Royce. And it's a training pot of money that's used to develop staff. So it could be your conventional school leaver, but it could also be people who are looking to gain a skill and a qualification that they maybe never got when they left school themselves.
You mentioned big businesses there. It's probably a good time to bring in Andrew. Andrew, yes, good morning. Rolls-Royce has a big reputation for taking on apprentices. I understand it's a record year as well for the number of apprentices you're going to be able to accept.
It is. So our current intake that we are recruiting for right now, deadline is March the 14th, just to throw that in, is 24. So that's the highest number of apprentices in our scheme, which has been running since 2006. So we're delighted that our intake in August this year, when they join, will be our record year.
And just sum up the value that apprentices bring to Rolls-Royce.
I think perhaps to put it most simply, if you think of future talent, so what Rolls-Royce is creating and working with apprentices is to build the future of Rolls-Royce. These are the people that will be taking Rolls-Royce to future success in the years to come. For the apprentice, we offer a full apprenticeship program. We offer on-the-job training, the ability to work at Rolls-Royce to build the world's best car, and to work with the world's leading manufacturer. So it's an ability, that combination of both the manufacturer and the apprentice learning together and building our future talent.
Lovely. Okay, so that's summed up who we have on the panel. We're going to take a couple of questions from the audience in just a moment, but first we've had some that have been sent in through our website. Janet has been asking, as a parent of a student looking at taking on an apprentice, she's concerned about what happens if the student doesn't like the placement. So, Donna, what happens in that situation if they change their mind?
Okay, so we across the whole college, actually, we have a team of careers advisors. So if you start a course and it's you're a certain way in and you think, actually, I'm not sure if this is right for me, I would say in the first instance you speak to who is your student tutor. So when you join, as we referenced earlier, you still get all of the benefits and all of the support of being a student at the college. So the student tutor would be the first point of call, and they would advise you about what your options are. But we do have careers advisors. We can always look to move you to another apprenticeship. So there would be options, absolutely. But I would say it's as much a risk, I suppose, if you started an A-level or a BTEC or any other course and thought, actually, I'm not quite sure if this is right for me. So in all instances, we have support, people in pastoral roles there to support you, to help you if you actually, you're partway through any course and you think, I'm not quite sure.
Good answer there. So we've also heard from Rob, who's looking at his options right now, and he's heard on the grapevine from friends that actually apprentices just end up doing the jobs that nobody else wants to do. Andrew, can you dispel that myth? It's a legitimate concern, but probably not true.
That's an easy myth to dispel. I think from day one, our apprentices are part of our team. They are part of our employee base, our workforce, if you like. But at the same time, there is a very clear apprentice program within the apprenticeship. We nurture our future talent. We look after them. We expect them to work and show passion and commitment. But at the same time, we are very aware they are apprentices. So that is just a myth.
Good to know. And maybe one for you, Chailey. We've heard from Vicky, who's, again, looking at options for her further education. She'd like to ask you what swayed you to make your decision into an apprenticeship.
I think the thing that swayed me most into doing an apprenticeship was the fact I loved the idea of being able to get formal training, which was still close to home, and I was able to earn money whilst doing that. And I know one of the massive myths about apprenticeships is that you get paid really rubbish money to be doing all the jobs you really don't want to do, and it's just not true. I'm not on minimum wage, you get paid very well for what you do, and you get given roles and responsibilities that you wouldn't be given if you went to something like university. You'd have to work your way right up, whereas this, you can choose what you want to do. So I'm into business and management, and because of that you get roles and responsibilities to do with what you've chosen, and that for me was a massive part in making that decision.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I understand our audience have some questions as well. Can I have a show of hands with somebody who's got a question, please? And we'll take a few questions. At the front, please, Cratchy.
I've heard from some people, I'm pretty sure it's a myth, that apprenticeships are almost like a second best to degrees and A-levels. And is that a myth? Or?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it is a myth. I'm very glad to say. It's sad that they have that sort of reputation, but it's something that we're very keen to dispel, and it's evidenced really by the sorts of companies that you can go work for. Rolls-Royce, it's a worldwide brand, the biggest car in the world. It's absolutely a myth, and it's a shame because actually there is a lot more to an apprenticeship than actually some of the full-time courses. Not only do you have to do full-time equivalent study, because they're exactly the same as what you do if you went on a full-time program, so you come out with the same qualification, but you're also holding down a full-time job, it's just a more sensible way of doing it. But you have to balance those two. So it's actually, if anything, a little bit more challenging. And also you have to be employable. So as Andrew referenced, we expect all apprentices, no matter where you're going to do your apprenticeship, to be there on time, to be committed, to be, positive, and to have that work ethic that goes alongside it as well. So there's a lot more to it.
And it really does give you that experience for the world of work, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if I may just chip in from Rolls-Royce, I think it's also about the outcome. So at the end of your apprenticeship, you have formal qualifications. So, for example, if you work in engineering on our assembly production line, at Rolls-Royce, you'd come out with an HNC. This year we have degree apprenticeships. So for the first time, we'll have apprentices who end their apprenticeship with a degree. And of course, you've been paid. Hopefully you've enjoyed building the best car in the world.
Shaylee, do you have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, I think that having a degree is brilliant, but the fact with an apprenticeship, you're still getting that formal qualification, you're still getting the grades that you want, the qualification, the certificate, but instead of being at university and where you don't necessarily, if you're at university, you just kind of get a part-time job to get you through, you don't necessarily get a job in what you want to do. So by doing this, you're getting a lot of work-based experience at the same time as getting that qualification that you would be if you went to university. So,
and just to support what's just been said, we do have a lot of graduates who finish university and they do struggle to find a job thereafter, and they apply for our apprenticeships. Now, in the past, they used to be ineligible because when you had a degree, you couldn't apply for an apprenticeship. But that's changed now, so you can, so long as it's very different to what you studied at university. But it just goes to demonstrate that actually, sometimes graduates who go and do a huge BA honours degree at a university, they still struggle to go into the workplace. And actually the advantages of an apprenticeship is that you've got all of that work-based experience, you've got your foot in the door with the company, and you're more likely to work your way up in that company. Yeah.
Lovely. Any more questions from the audience?
What kind of jobs do you do when you're an apprentice?
My apprenticeship role, or what jobs can you do as an apprentice?
Yeah, what kind of jobs can you do?
What kind of jobs can you do? So I think one of the biggest things is that you can only do an apprenticeship in plumbing or building or plastering and things like that. But at Chichester College, we offer so many different apprenticeships. And obviously I'm working in an apprenticeship office, so I get to see quite a lot of them. There's everything from plumbing and construction to hair and beauty to childcare. There's so many different things you can do. And within that role, I'm sure Andrew will say the same from Rolls-Royce, you get to do things and build your experience and skills in that chosen industry. So if you go into hair and beauty, at the college we have a hairdresser salon where the students will work and they will cut people's hair and things like that. So, yeah.
I think from a Rolls-Royce perspective, there are a variety of different apprenticeship roles. So that could be in wood, leather, manufacturing, business, engineering, and as part of your course, you'll be working with the team. You'll be one of the Rolls-Royce team. Obviously, we help and guide. At the same time, there'll be college or university placement. That could be up to 2-3 days a week. So it's a very busy apprenticeship, but ultimately you're one of our team. I work with apprentices myself. A little later today, we have Nick Gibb, our MP, local MP, coming to see us as part of Apprenticeship Week. I have a room full of apprentices who want to tell him what they do. So it's a very supported, but equally it's a full-blown job as well.
Yeah, so, and just again to support that, there are those conventional apprenticeships that you would expect to hear, so brickwork and plumbing and hairdressing, but the world of apprenticeships has changed radically over sort of the last 10 years or so. There was huge reforms that took place last year actually, and what happened was a load of employers sort of got around the table and were called the Trailblazer Boards, and Andrew and Rolls-Royce were part of those discussions for engineering. But they did it for every sector of industry. So actually there isn't really an area of industry that doesn't have an apprenticeship scheme to support it. So you can do everything from, we've just launched data analyst, we've got transport planning, town planning, so it's probably subjects that you've never really thought of and thought, oh, didn't know that could be an apprenticeship. There's digital marketeer. There's lots of exciting subjects. So whilst there's a really valid place for all of those more conventional skills, it does also directly relate to more academic study in the business world as well. So there's lots. But you can have a look on our website if you want to find out exactly the full range, and that's chichester.ac.uk.
How long does it take to complete your apprenticeship and move on to full-time work?
My apprenticeship is 21 months, so it's just under 2 years. However, depending on the experience you've had before and depending how hardworking you are and how much you want it, it can be fast-tracked to a year and a day. And that's the minimum time you can complete an apprenticeship in. But yeah, it's quite quick if you think that you'd be at university for maybe 2 or 3 years for the same sort of thing.
And it really will depend on the subject you choose as well. So, and the level of study as well. So as we've said, you can go right up to degree level, which is like a level 6. So coming out of school, you'd probably be on a level 2, and you'd work your way up through the levels to get your degree equivalent at that level 6 standard.
At Rolls-Royce, it's 3 or 4 years, depending on where you work within the manufacturing plant. And at the end of your apprenticeship, you're not guaranteed a job. It's there if you're good and you've succeeded. I'm delighted to say that most of our apprentices do come and work with us at Rolls-Royce Motor Cars, so don't worry. And today, since 2006, our apprenticeship program, when it started, we now have a number of what we call ex-apprentices who are rapidly running through the management ranks. So it really is about generating future talent. It's fantastic to see people who started with us at 16 now managers across the manufacturing plant.
And just to address there as well, it is a full-time job. So you're already in a full-time job when you go on to an apprenticeship. So it's a full-time job, but it's also full-time study as well.
Come back to the audience in just a moment. Want to go through some questions that have been submitted in advance for the panel, first of all. Sarah in Littlehampton, you've touched a lot on this, Donna, already. She wants to know what support is available for people taking on an apprenticeship.
Okay, well, at Chichester College, you get all of the student benefits and sort of access to everything that we offer to any other student. So enrolling on that, you get a full NUS card, you'd get all of our student experience excursions. You can be all part of that as well. So that's not limited to full-time sort of, in the college study. It's also full-time apprenticeships where you're more work-based. So you get all of those student rights as well.
Good to know. Andrew, maybe one for you. Danny wants to know, have you ever had any problems managing salary expectations of apprenticeships?
Interesting question.
There's always the money question, isn't there?
Not personally, but it's not something that it's been brought to my attention. I think generally the view from the young people and the people that come to work with us as apprentices is that they are being paid. They're being paid to do a job, but at the same time they are going through college or through university courses. And actually when they come out of their apprenticeship, they have no debt. It's a different way of working perhaps, but it's certainly been very successful for the young people that have been apprentices and have gone through our apprenticeship program and now working with us.
Shaylee, without going into personal details, Emma wants to know, how much does an apprentice normally get paid?
Obviously, it will depend on what level apprenticeship you're doing and things like that. But generally, the apprentice minimum wage is £3.62. And generally, the apprentice wage you'll be paid will range from that to, say, £6.50 an hour. And because it's a Monday to Friday job, generally, and depending what you're doing, it will pay just like a usual job. And, yeah, it's not... I wouldn't say I've ever thought, well, I'm not being paid enough. So, yeah, it's good.
Good to know. Any more questions from the audience? Any more hands raised earlier on? Anybody else like to find anything out from our experts on the panel here?
How much do apprentices usually enjoy fair apprenticeships?
So how much do they normally enjoy their apprentices?
Immensely. It's like we've said, it mirrors and it sort of matches up that world of work and study as well. So if you're feeling like you're ready to go into the world of work and you want to take on that next step and challenge, then it's a great way to get into the industry that you want to go into for a job. Like I said, and quite often you find that when you're in an organisation, you can move departments as well. So actually there's a lot to learn, and you can often make those transitions, and we can support you in that as well. So, it's a huge amount. We do a lot of student celebrations. We do a big graduation as well with the West Sussex County Council. And I know a lot of other districts do that as well. So there's a lot of celebration to say, well done on your apprenticeship, because like we've said, it is equivalent to, going to, in some cases, going to degree study. So
I think from my experience of our apprentices, they have a great time at Rolls-Royce. They work hard. We like them to be passionate and to have a good work ethic. But they are part of our broader team at Rolls-Royce Motor Cars. There's almost 2,000 people at Rolls-Royce now. But at the same time, they are part of the apprentice team. So they make good friends. They're a good gang. And they look after each other, and they're supported by us at the same time. So you have a multiple levels of support. And from my experience, our apprentices work hard, and they do very well, and they have a good time while they're doing it.
Let's come on to the subject of coursework, because you are part of the college, but you're also working. So how do you fit the coursework around the day-to-day job of what you do, Chaley?
Yeah. Well, with the apprenticeship scheme currently, you're allowed 20% off the job training. So that will involve if you've got to go to any lessons, if you've got to go and take any exams and things like that. So currently I get every Wednesday afternoon where I'm allowed to go from my job and I do my apprenticeship work. And actually the balance isn't that hard, because the apprenticeship work that you have to do is always relating to something that you'll be doing in the workplace. And you get to choose the units which you do for your coursework. So I'm looking at equality and diversity and things like that, because that's very current in the college at the moment. So looking at that unit for me was brilliant, because it's something that is going on at the moment. It's very current, and it allows me to sort of intertwine my work with my coursework, which is brilliant.
And Andrew, what support can firms like Rolls-Royce give to students needing to do coursework as well?
Well, each apprenticeship program automatically has pre-scheduled college work. So they'll have day release, and that will change during the course of their apprenticeship, 2-3 days perhaps, depending on whereabouts within Rolls-Royce they are, perhaps a little more, a little less, depending where their program is. But it's a very structured program. So we're experienced at this now. The course has been running, I'd say, for more than 10 years. And college work is very important. And so we hugely respect the time that the apprentices need to put in and to allow them to take their college courses, and we support them in that.
Donna, let's talk a bit about the money side of things again. We've had a question here: do I have to pay towards an apprentice? Do I have to put any money in order to take one out?
No, never. No. Part of the apprenticeship provision, a learner will never pay towards their study. So it's very sort of clear on that one. What actually happens is your employer is investing in you. So actually you're, most of the time your employer is contributing towards your study. That's for bigger firms. They will pay in full. So actually they're taking a real investment in you. So if, one of the hardest things I think is to secure an apprenticeship placement. Andrew referenced they've got 24 roles coming up. The deadline's coming up soon. For those 24 roles, probably about 100 applicants at minimum would apply. So you're going up against lots of other people. So it's about making sure you've got the skills to put you in the best position to secure that apprenticeship, because that's one of the hardest challenges that an apprentice will have. But you would never pay towards it. Your employer's there to support you, and even with smaller firms, they will still contribute towards your training. So they'll usually pay 10% of the funding, and the government will fund the rest.
And what about things like travel costs, bus fares and taxis and that sort of a thing? How does that work?
Yep. Well, it really depends. As a student, you would have all of the student rights because you've got your NUS, so you would be able to get any advantages that the NUS card would bring in local travel firms. But if it's travel related to your workplace, that your workplace has asked you to go on, then that will be supported by your employer.
Andrew, give us a rundown, if you can, of what an apprentice at Rolls-Royce would get up to. Would they be part of the production line? Would they be part of the backroom team? Is there a variety of roles available?
Yes to all of those is the short answer. It's across all of the disciplines of Rolls-Royce motor cars. So there are the traditional ones. If you think of a Rolls-Royce, perhaps you think of wood, leather, engineering. but also we have roles in maintenance, in technology, in IT. It's across the gambit. We are literally building future talent for the company.
Good. Any more questions from the audience? Any more hands that went up earlier on? Anybody else got anything to ask our panel of experts here?
Is someone more likely to hire you from a degree apprenticeship or a university degree?
Are you talking about a future job role?
Future job role, if it's not in the company you had your apprenticeship.
Okay. With degree apprenticeships to an degree apprenticeship, there is no difference. So you've got the same level of study, and if it's in exactly the same subject, then you've got the equivalent qualification. Okay. Usually with a degree apprenticeship, just to put it in perspective, you do 4 years on something like a chartered manager degree, as opposed to doing it in 3 years, because you're doing it in balance. So you just take an extra little bit of time to usually complete that qualification, but you come out with exactly the same qualification. In terms of where you're more likely to get employment, obviously the great thing about apprenticeships is that you have that work-based experience. So obviously when you're going to interviews for future, you can reference exactly the same qualification as somebody, but also say, I've had 4 years at minimum, because that's how long it takes to get the qualification, in the workplace doing the job.
I think perhaps another aspect of that is, another way of looking at it, is that if you look at all of the apprentices that have been with us since we started the programme in 2006, the vast majority not only passed their apprenticeship, but they're also still with us. And they're now rapidly going up through the management rung. So the question of the job is, that's what the apprenticeship was for in the first place. So the success is there already.
So overall, do you think going down the apprenticeship route would be more beneficial than going to college or university?
Shaylee, it's probably one for you.
In my personal opinion, having looked at going down the university route and doing A-levels and then coming back to do an apprenticeship, sort of going back on myself, I'd actually say that I'd prefer going down the apprenticeship route, and I quite often say now I wish I'd have just gone down this route in the first place, because of the fact that you're working, you're being paid, you're getting a qualification, it's sort of everything all at the same time, which is absolutely fantastic. And if I could have gone back and not done the A-levels and probably started with the apprenticeship, I definitely would have done, because obviously after I've done this one I can build up on it and things like that. So
what do you say to your friends then? If they're asking you, do I do one, do I not do one? What do you say to them? I've
told all of my friends that don't really know what to do, just do an apprenticeship, just try it, you'll love it. So yeah, because when I first started I was very optimistic. I was very, we'll give it a go, we'll see how it goes, and actually it's gone really well. And working within Chichester College, the team that I'm working within are absolutely fantastic, and they support me in everything I want to do. And it's one of those things that when you join a company, they're aware that you're learning. So, if you do things wrong and if you mess up and you don't quite get it right, it doesn't matter, because that's what they're there for. They're there to support you, they're there to point you in the right direction, and they're there to give you those life skills and teach you how to do different things and how to work with other people. And it's brilliant. Yeah,
good advice. Did I see another hand at the front? Yes.
Do you have a choice as to where you work when you do an apprenticeship?
Yes, you do. Yeah. Obviously Andrew would say you've got to work with Rolls-Royce, but looking at that, you can look at lots of different apprenticeships. So where I'm working within the apprenticeship team, we've got people that work at St Richard's Hospital, we've got people that work within law firms, we've got people that work in accountancy firms. You can look at all of the different companies that are offering out apprenticeships, and you yourself can choose where you most want to be. So if you're looking at going to law and you choose to do a business and management apprenticeship, if you chose to do that in a law firm, that sets you up quite well, because if you show you're committed and you work really hard, that law firm then may offer you a permanent position afterwards. So, yeah.
And where do they get the information from in terms of, so many companies? Where do they start in terms of looking for these companies?
I'd say probably the first thing to do is to start thinking about what industry you want to go into. So at Chichester College, we have 7 key sectors of industry, and that's everything from engineering to business and management to creative and cultural. So it's really vast. So start to think about what you enjoy doing and what you can see yourself doing as a career. We have careers advice at the college, so if you need any support with that, obviously speak to your school, but also speak to us as well. We have an open evening going on next week. We have one at Brinsbury campus, which is our land-based campus, this Saturday, so it's tomorrow. We also have one next Thursday that's at the main campus at Chichester College. So pop along and speak to people, but getting an idea of what you want to do is the first step, and deciding that, because it is choosing to go into the world of work and choosing an industry that you need to be happy in. So, to reference that earlier question, that's why when you go to an interview, you need to be happy about the choices you're making and comfortable where you're going to go, because you're going to go there every day to work. So you need to be happy and positive about going there, and that you're going to go there with the energy that you need to make it successful.
If you sort of start working as an apprentice, then you finish your apprenticeship, could you rejoin the job? I mean, I know you can rejoin the job, but do you have to leave the job you're working at to keep working on that job?
Yeah, the apprenticeship itself is for the duration of the apprenticeship. So it will be for, so any apprentice role will be for 2 years or 3 years or however long the study programme is. So the job will match that. As Andrew said, there is a huge amount of students and learners on apprenticeships that progress. So it really is very high, the people who stay on in those job roles, because the reason why the companies are taking you on is because they want to invest in you for their future talent pool for the future, so that you're going to be their succession plan managers for, sort of another 10 years' time. So that's the idea behind apprenticeships. It's about sort of looking at the talent of tomorrow. That said, it's not guaranteed that at the end of an apprenticeship you will have a job, but it is the responsibility of your employer and also the college as well, to help you find something that's suitable after. And we have support teams in place who can help you do that, so we can point you in the right direction when you come to the near the end of the apprenticeship too.
And Andrew, can you give us any examples, current members of Rolls-Royce who started out on apprenticeships and now have worked their way up to management level?
Yes, I can. And actually, I'll be working with a young lady called Alice a little later today, when she meets our local MP. Alice started as an apprentice in the leather shop. She worked hard. I got to know her when our previous Prime Minister, David Cameron, visited Rolls-Royce, because she was asked to introduce him. So not a bad job for an afternoon, introducing the Prime Minister in front of the entire workforce, let alone your own colleagues in the other apprenticeship programs. She's now one of our process managers in the leather shop, and she's rapidly going up through the management rung. So we're very proud of all of our apprentices, and there are countless examples of that all the way through from 2006.
So for the right person, there's definitely a future.
Absolutely.
Good. Did you have a question at the front as well?
Are apprenticeships becoming more popular than they used to be?
Yes. Yeah, I'd say they're definitely becoming more popular. Just last year they brought out architecture apprenticeships, and there's now law apprenticeships, and there's apprenticeships in every job you could possibly ever imagine. And because of how popular they're now becoming for employers, it's becoming a lot more readily available for people like us to look at them and look at what we want to go into. And yeah, it's definitely becoming more popular. I know a lot of people that are now going back to do apprenticeships, and yeah.
I am one of them. So I finished school in 2002, so a long time ago, and then I did my A-levels, and then I went and got a degree at university, and it was in a field that's completely unrelated to what I now do in the workplace, but it did give me really useful skills to enable that. However, now being an employee at Chichester College, what we find with big companies now is they're investing in staff members like me who are sort of, a little bit older, let's say, and to develop them. So actually, we have seen a massive sort of change in education, whereby the old conventional sort of way of going to A-levels and university didn't always translate to a job thereafter. So it's certainly the trend now where we're seeing the rise in apprenticeships, and there's lots of support from the government to enable that.
And Andrew, you must have seen that as well, as you say, a record number of apprenticeships this year for you.
Yes, I think it's the popularity has grown enormously over the last few years. I think what Rolls-Royce has had from the very beginning as a BMW Group company, BMW has been very supportive of apprenticeships, and with the creation of Rolls-Royce and the apprenticeship, we've seen a lot of interest through the years. What I would say, though, is don't let that put you off at the same time. There are occasions when people might not feel they're good enough for an apprenticeship, perhaps with a brand name like Rolls-Royce. I would say go for it. I encourage you to, if you have an interest in, for us, for example, in the automotive world, luxury, and all the other areas that build a company. It's not just manufacturing, it's all the other areas of a business. I would go for it. If you feel that you are, you're a hard worker, you're organised, you're passionate about what you do. At Rolls-Royce, we often use Sir Henry Royce's quote, strive for perfection. So if you're always trying to do the very best, then why not apply? And for Rolls-Royce Motor Cars, if you Google Rolls-Royce Motor Cars and find our careers site, that's how you find more information.
I'm interested to know, is there anybody that's been listening to this conversation today who's changed their mind as a result of what was said? Or is there anybody now that wants to know more about taking on an apprenticeship? Just a show of hands. Yeah? Well, that's good. Is there anybody... That's all right, isn't it? That's
I think
mission
that's the whole
accomplished, I think, yeah. Is there anybody else that's got any more questions? We're coming towards the end of the discussion now, so it's probably your last chance now. If you have any questions for the experts on the panel, it'll be good to hear from you today.
When you leave school and finish your apprenticeship, and when you grow older, can you do another apprenticeship? So can you do multiple?
Yeah, you can. I'm currently on a level 3 apprenticeship, and I'm already looking at all the level 4 apprenticeships I can do with the college afterwards. So that's sort of how you build your way up, and then that's how you get to doing the degree level. So.
And I think it's quite a daunting prospect to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're sort of leaving school. So a lot of people do change careers when they're older, and apprenticeship is a very valid way to do that. So you can absolutely change career via an apprenticeship and retrain as well. So if you do sort of you're 10 years into your career and you decided career changes for you, then apprenticeships is a really superb way to do that, because it still means that you're earning money while you're learning that new skill.
There we go. I think we've dried up, haven't we? So there we go. Just before we wrap up, Chaeli, if you can give us one word to describe an apprentice.
Invaluable.
There you go. Donna?
Oh, one word.
It's the shortest answer you'll ever give.
I can't think of superb. Just do it.
And Andrew?
I think for Rolls-Royce, I'd say potential, both for us and for the apprentice.
I think we've all done quite well.
Lovely. Well, I think that wraps up the discussion then. Thank you very much for joining us, to the students here at Bourne Community College. Thank you very much for joining us on Facebook as well. Hopefully that's answered your questions. For more information on the Chichester College website and also the Rolls-Royce website as well about starting an apprenticeship, we say thank you to the team here. Thank you to Chaeli, thank you to Donna, thank you to Andrew, and until next time, bye-bye.
Spirit FM.